Hi everyone, today we are going to make these pieces of furniture exercise. The first step you should take is to create a new document. Let's go to File menu and find the New command. There are two options here in the popped-up window. The first one is to create a blank document, and the second one, which is to use one of the templates. We are going to use the fundamentals metric millimeters template. And the document has been created. Let's save it at the very beginning. Let's name it Pieces of Furniture and press Save button. You may find out that there are two classes in the document by default. The first one is dimensions and the second one is none. Since they are default classes, we can't delete them. The same for layers. In the layers section you'll find a single design layer called design layer the first. And now we are going to create a few classes and layers, setting up the document structure. To create a new class, you should make a right click in the blank area and find New command. In the next window, let's type in the name of the class. Let's name it Furniture-main. Then let's press the OK button. The next pop-up window contains settings of the class. For the current class, we aren't going to make any changes in the settings, leaving everything as it is. Let's just press the OK button and go further. I'll create another class named Furniture-objects. Please be sure that you've got the Edit Properties After Creation checkbox ticked. That will allow us to get to the next window automatically. This time, let's activate the Used Creation option. Thus, the attributes of the class will be applied directly to objects, omitting the attributes palette. Let's change the color of the solid fill to light gray, leaving the pen style as it is. We are not going to make any changes to these attributes at the bottom of the window. Let's press OK now. I'm going to create the last class for the furniture group. It will be named Furniture-annotations. And I'm pressing OK. We should turn on the Used Creation option. Also, let's change the fill style to none. Let's leave the pen style in default settings. And I'm pressing OK now. As a result, we've got the set of 3 classes grouped by furniture. The list could be expanded or collapsed by clicking this small triangle. Let's now switch to layers. We'll rename the existing layer to Furniture. Now I'm going to add a new layer. That should be called Plans. Please be sure that the option Edit after creation is turned on. So we'll be prompted to the next window automatically. Here we are not going to change anything. Let's just press OK and go ahead. Now let's create the last layer. We'll name it Pavement. Please press OK twice. Now let's alter the stacking order of the layers. That could be done via the editing window. You'll find the particular option at the upper part of the window. Alternatively, the order could be changed by grading these numbers. The pavement layer should be at the end of the list. So why don't we just drag it to the bottom? You may find the sign of the internal origin in the document. It indicates where the beginning of the coordinates is. If you haven't got one in your document, please go to the Tools menu, find there the Origin section and the Locate Internal Origin command. Now I'm about to place a circle right at the internal origin position. I'm placing it not being concerned with its dimensions. Later, we'll alter the diameter from the Object Info palette. I need to be sure that the object is selected. In the palette, you'll find the diameter slot. Let's type in 1200 millimeters. Then let's change the class. That could be done by choosing Assign to Selection command under the right click. Then you'll be asked if you want to change the object attributes. Let's press OK now. And as a result, the object obtains the class attributes. Now it's time to create the armchair. Let's place it at the lowest point of the circle. We'll be using the rectangle tool. After you have activated the tool, you would find a few modes. To create the seat of the armchair, it's convenient to use the first one. I'm starting drawing. Now let's set up the object's dimensions. We are starting with this matrix. It serves to freeze points. In this case, we'll choose the upper middle point. Let's change the width to 500 millimeters. The same for the height. Let's change the class now. This time I'll show you another way to do so. I'll open the list of the classes from the Object Info palette. Let's press Yes. Also, let me set the active class. Now we are going to make the sides of the square oblique. To do so, I'll be using the Reshape tool. Here you'll find a few modes. To solve the task, the first one is the best choice. We should grab the vertex and drag it towards the middle point. I'm going to type in 50 on the keyboard. Then I press Enter twice. The same for the other side. Just type in 50, press Enter twice. And that's it. Now I'm going to use an arc to make the background. From the list of modes, let's choose the point on arc mode. That will allow me to place the first point, then the last one, and finally the point in between. Please notice that the arc has a peak. I'll change its color to highlight the peak. We should get rid of the peak to be able to join the shapes together. To do so, let me change the fill style to none. Now I'm going to select both of them and go to the Modify menu. I should choose Add Surface command from the list. Now it's time to create the gap between the table and the armchair. We should select the seat, go to the Modify menu, find Move section, and finally Move command. There are two options on coordinate systems. We'll leave the default settings. The x-axis transposes objects horizontally, when y-axis does the same vertically. Since there is a need to move the seat lower, I should use the y-axis with a negative value, so I'm placing the minus sign before the value. It'll make minus 50 millimeters. Let's now create the thickness of the back. To do so, we should restore the arc. So I go to the arc tool. The second mode will fit perfectly. That will allow me to create the first, the middle, and the last point, matching the existing arc. Then I'm going to use the Offset tool. Inside the settings of the tool, we'll see two groups of options. The first group controls the way an object is created, whether it will be created by a certain distance or manually by point mode. And the second group of options controls whether the object will be duplicated or not. And also we'll find here the Tool Preferences button. Let's set up the tool to have an Offset by Distance mode. Then let's define the distance. Let's type in 30 millimeters and we don't want to get any duplicate. Since we are using the offset by distance mode, we should just show the direction of the future offset. Let's choose the direction towards the table. And the offset has been made. By taking the next step, we should cover the gaps. To do so, first we need to enlarge the arc. Using the corner handles. Next we should do the opposite act. Let's move the handles back, finding intersections with the seed object. Then let's get rid of the peak by bringing the fill value to none. Now we are going to create the armrests. To complete the task, we'll be using the rectangle tool. In combination with the last mode, that will allow us to define the rotation angle by creation. After the rectangle has been created, let's use the matrix to freeze one of the points on the right. Now we are going to set the width to 60 mm. Then we should create a gap between the armrest and the seat. With the object being selected, let's go to Modify menu. Inside the Move section, we'll find Move command. Since the object should be moved to the left, we need to use a negative value. Let's type in 0 in the Y slot. Okay, let's now round the armrest corners. Using the Fillet tool. Let's switch to the Trim mode here. For the radius, we'll be using 20 mm. To make the rounding, I click the edges sequentially. Let's repeat the operation to make all the corners round. Ready? Then why don't we create the reflected copy of the armrest? To do this, I'm going to use the Mirror tool in combination with the Duplicate mode. I should find the middle point of the top edge and draw a vertical line. To keep the reflection straight, let's push and hold the Shift button on the keyboard. So now we got a collection of separate objects. To operate with them in a more convenient way, we may want to turn them into a group. Let's go to Modify menu and find there the Group command. So now it's a single object. We still could modify the geometry by clicking twice. Now we are inside the group. Now let's enter the group again and switch to the Furniture Annotations class. Now we are going to get familiar with the Text tool. Click in any place of the drawing. and start to text. From the Object Info palette, we are going to alter the text size. Let's choose 4 points here. Then we are going to alter the alignment, bringing the both values to the center. Let's use the selection tool to move the object to the middle of the seat. Now we'll be changing the class of the group to the Furniture main class. In the window, please push No. For the reason that we don't want the inside objects to get the new class and thus to obtain its attributes. I need to switch to another class to demonstrate to you the advantages of using this approach. Thus, we've got control over the visibility of the parts of the group. Now it's time to create the circular array. We start with selecting the armchair. Then go to Edit menu and find there the Duplicate Array command. From the shape list, please choose the Circular Array option. For the number of duplicates, let's use 5. For the angle between duplicates value, we should define the angle between the two nearest copies. Let's do it from scratch. Here by default we have 0. To find the proper angle, we should place an easy formula here. We should start with typing in 360, followed by the division sign, and the formula by placing the number of duplicates. The proper angle will be calculated automatically. In the Circle Center Point section, please choose the second one. That would allow us to define the point of rotation manually. After we have pressed the OK button, the future copies are going to be rotated, and we'll be using the duplication angle from the previous step. When I pressed OK, there is an option to define the center point, and the array has been created. We should switch to the pavement layer. Please be sure that your layer options are set to the Show Snap Others, because by default there is the Gray Snap Others option set. Let's zoom out a bit. We are going to use the Polyline tool to create the pavement. There are a few modes here. To solve the task, we'll be using the Bezier vertex mode. Let's start drawing. If you like to modify the shape, you should be using the Reshape tool. For the object, we'll be using the None class, making some modifications to the attributes. We should switch to the Tile Fill style from the Attributes palette. And by default, you'll get something like this. Let's find something more fitable. I click the Resource button in the palette, and that brings the library window. Let's find the Cobblestone the first solid fill TF entity. Just click twice, and voila. The pattern could be scaled with help of the Attribute Mapping tool. Also, there is the possibility to alter the rotation angle. Now let's decrease the opacity by pressing this button. We've got control over the fill and the pen opacity. These two kinds of opacity are linked together by default. Let's unchain them. You need to alter only the opacity of the fill. Let's bring the value to 30%, leaving the opacity of the pen as it is. There is a preview button over here. Let's press OK when we are happy with the preview result.
Now it's time to create the fence. To do that, we'll need some preparations. I'll be using a line to find the perpendicular to the pavement shape. To do so, press and hold Shift while drawing the line. Now we need to make a point cut in the intersection. To do so, we'll be using the Split tool in combination with the first point split mode. I hover the scroll over the object that I'd like to cut. When the object is highlighted, I click once. Then we are going to place a square here, using the Rectangle tool. Let's say it will have its sides equal to 100 millimeters. Let's align the center of the square to the point where we have made the cut. Why don't we delete the line? Now we are going to create the array along the pavement object. To select the objects in the following way, I press and hold the Alt key on Mac or Option on Windows. From Edit menu, please choose the Duplicate Along Path command. First, we need to be sure that the path object is highlighted. Please use the arrows to choose the proper object. Then let's decide how many copies we need. Let's make 50 copies. Let's be sure all the three options at the bottom of the window are activated. Then press Preview. If everything is fine, let's press OK. Next, we are going to make an offset here. We are starting with selecting the pavement. Then we are choosing the offset tool. Let's switch to the offset by point mode. Also, we don't want a duplicate to be created. Let me show the process. Once I've clicked the border, I'm able to define the offset distance manually. I click the second time and finish the operation. That's it. We are going to create a tree in the upper part of the pavement area. Please be sure that you work in the proper layer. We should be using the plant layer. Let's place a circle over here. I'd like my tree to be slightly upper, so I could use the arrows on my keyboard in combination with the Shift key. And the object is being nudged. Let's place another circle within the existing one. I'm placing it a bit off the center. Right here. Now we are going to alter the thickness of the last circle, using the Attributes palette. Then we should create the branches. I suggest you use the Polygon tool for this purpose. Please feel free to draw your own original shapes. Now we are going to use lines in the unconstrained mode to generate the minor branches. Please feel free to make them in your own way. And we are ready. You may have already noticed that the branches overlap the trunk. To eliminate that, let's select the trunk and go to the Modify menu. And find Send to Front command there. Thus, we've just changed the drawing order of the shapes. It's time now to add some shadows to the drawing. First, let's switch to the pavement layer. Instead of selecting everything manually, we'll be using this Select Similar tool. When you use the tool, first you should go to its preferences. Here you'll see several groups of criteria. When you select an object, all objects that meet the criteria are selected. Let's choose from the vast list of options the following: the class and the object type criteria. Then let's press OK. Please click one of the fence instances. As a result, all the instances have been selected, because all of them meet the chosen criteria. Let's go to the Attributes palette now. Please find this small button called Drop Shadow. Thus, all the selected objects have got the shadows. Let's zoom in. We could find that there is a major gap between the shadows and the objects. That will bring us to set up the shadows. In the pop-up window, we should decrease the offset value. Let's bring it to 1. Also, it's a good idea to decrease the opacity. Bring in the value to 30%. There is a preview button over here. Why don't we use it? Looking good. So I press OK. Why don't we add a shadow to the tree? Let's switch to its layer first. Then we are going to enter the group. Now let's select the circle only. Let's press the drop shadow button. We should go to the drop shadow settings now. Here we are going to decrease the opacity, bringing its value to 30%. Let's press OK then. To add shadows to the rest of the objects, it's convenient to use the eyedropper tool. The tool picks up attributes of an object and applies them to other objects. Let's enter the tool settings and untick everything but the drop shadows option. I'm pressing OK. Now let's pick up attributes of the tree. To do so, first we'll switch to the Pick Up Attributes mode. Now we click the object and leave the group. We are going to enter the furniture layer. Now let's switch to the Apply mode and click the objects. You may have noticed that only the circle adopted the shadow. For the groups, we should act in a different way. Let's enter one of the groups and select the seat and the armrests. Now we are going to apply the attributes. Click once, and that's it. The shadow on the left overlaps the seat. It looks a bit unnatural. That will bring us to changing the drawing order. It's possible to do with the Send to Back command. Be sure the object is selected. Then go to the Modify menu and find the proper command in the Send section in the top part of the list. It will be reasonable to recreate the array, so I'm deleting the rest of the armchairs. Please be sure that the instance is selected. Then let's go to the Edit menu and find the Duplicate Array command. Everything has been already set up here. Just press OK and find the center of the table. Done. Let's fix the shadow over here. I select the armrest and run the Send to Front command from the Modify menu. I'm going to make the opposite action to this object. The same here. Of course, we should eliminate the shadow overlapping the table. We are going to send back these three groups. Let's run the proper command. And that's it. Looking much better. Alright, it was the exercise. I hope you have liked it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to address them to me. I wish you good luck and see you soon.